Hey guys, it's Nemo and welcome to the channel. Today we'll be featuring the Tier 7 IJN Battleship, the Nagato. Now Nagato is not as good as the Tier 6 Fuso, but she still is pretty good. She has 26mm of armor all over except for a patch at the rear deck near the rear turrets, which is around 70mm, so arse tanking in this thing is actually pretty effective. We're going to play this mainly as a kiting ship, but a kiting ship in a dominant position. Now, some people have tried to tell me before that these battleships, Nagato, Amagi, the Tier 7 and 8, are flanking ships. These are not flankers. These have extremely long range guns with a spotter plane, as you can see, 20.5 kilometers at Tier 7, and significantly your 8x4, so 8 guns in a 4 turret setup, has 410mm guns. They are enormous guns for Tier 7. That's significant because that means you can punch through an overmatched 27mm of armor. So no cruiser can bow tank you unless it's the Moskva or the Stalingrad, but at Tier 7, unless you fail division, you're not likely to see those cruisers at all. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that today's video is for Woofy. Woofy is one of my clan members. She's currently grinding the Nagato, and I thought I'd help her out with this and show her how she can be effective in this ship. Now, the problem with the 410mm guns on the Nagato, even though they are long range, the dispersion at long range can be extremely trolly. You can fire a perfect looking salvo, and by the time it gets to the target, it'll be all over the shop. So as you can see, what we're doing here, we're playing on an epicenter map, and we're just going to move into a position where we can control the game. The spotter plane goes up 24.6 kilometers of map. Now this is on the Trident map. It's a relatively small map, and as you can see, my guns, if I was parked in the middle of the map, I would be able to control the entire map. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to use that 70mm rear deck armor to just sit stern on to our enemies and control the engagement with our long range guns. Now once you get into a position here where you can affect the battle, you just want to keep moving backwards and forwards slowly, just so you can keep the angles on enemy ships. As you can see, I've got a nice clear opening on the Leon there, and nice, one citadel, almost 20,000 damage. That's some big damage for a broadsiding ship. This is why you try not to broadside, but this range seems to be really effective, around that 15-16 kilometer mark. You don't need to go all the way out to 20 kilometers because you can, at this tier, you're not really going to face ships that are going to hit you too hard. Unfortunately, my div mate dies a horrible death. He wasn't having too good a night, but it was a laugh otherwise. Now we hit this Leon again. You want to sort of just target the things that you can hit broadside. You have a 30-second reload, so you have the opportunity to just pick your shots, which is really handy when you're trying to dominate an engagement. If a ship like the Leon, for example, is going to continue to give you broadside, then keep hitting the broadside ship, because that's where you're going to do most of your damage. And a sneaky Emerald has got up around behind us, and I don't actually realise until now. But I'm not too worried, it's only an Emerald. The Emerald is, for all intents and purposes, a torpedo cruiser. Her 5 single shot guns just don't really do too much damage. Very good ambush cruiser with torpedoes from behind an island. Still, you don't want something on your flank like that, keeping you all spotted, keeping you lit up, so we're going to try and knock him out anyway. Probably not going to hit. If he's on his game, he's going to be manoeuvring, he's going to see those shots from a mile away. The thing with the Nagato shells is they are quite floaty. They're not as floaty as American shells, but they still can float a little bit. And as I said, that type of range, once you get out of your optimum range, you're just going to spray shells everywhere. One thing I usually say about the Nagato is that you can't hit the broadside of a barn door with a machine gun from the inside, and it's quite true. But as you see, like these shorter ranges, I just aimed a little bit too high there, and that's why I didn't do too much damage. I just pierced through the superstructure. We have the map here. Where we are, we have quite a bit of control. We've got all these ships bottled up behind the island, so it's going to be hard for us to get the shots, yes, but you don't really want to move too much, because once you start moving around the map to try to get shots, you can actually take yourself out of the battle. The thing that Japanese battleships do extremely well is control that center area of the battle. They have, as I said, they have that long range gun. They've got extremely heavy broadsides. Even though you lose significant amount of guns on the Nagato compared to the Fuso, as you can see, the Fuso there has 2 more turrets in the center, which gives her an extremely heavy broadside. You still have big guns, and so just absolutely whacked that Fuso. So by maintaining my position in the middle, even though there aren't too many juicy shots on where my guns are aiming at the moment, I'm still controlling the battle. Veleki's going to come around. Now, remember I said the 410s can overmatch almost anything, especially at its tier, and the Veleki is at tier 5, so its armor scheme, even though being Russian and ridiculous, is not really any match for 410mm guns. So we lose sight of things, but that's okay, because it's about to be, we're almost cleaned up our side. Once you clean up your side, that's when you get to relocate and maneuver. You could probably sit a little bit broad. You don't really want to, because a lot of ships, especially once you get up to higher tiers, you want to practice for higher tiers. So if you're going to sit broadside to ships at low tiers and you try to take that into high tiers, then you're just going to get absolutely wrecked. So Fuso, another citadel on him, and finishes him off. Our only problems now over this side are 2 extremely light cruisers. They're tier 5 cruisers. They have no armor at all. The Emerald and the Hawkins, the British heavy and light cruiser at tier 5, they are very, very squishy ships. So the last thing they want to do is expose themselves to 410mm battleship, although if you don't hit properly, your 410s are more likely just to overpen. So the biggest problem we have in front of us at the moment is the Nagato. So what we're going to do is put ourselves between the Nagato, put an island, between us and the Nagato. And as you can see, as I'm moving around, there's a couple of islands along that 6th line that are going to protect us from his salvos while we concentrate on hitting the other flank. We haven't moved much. As you can see, I haven't really moved much in the battle at all. Now, a lot of people might think this is boring type of gameplay, but this is controlling gameplay. The idea of most of your game is to control the match. Positioning and control. The right positioning will allow you to dominate and dictate how a battle goes. Now, this Hawkins has to move because he has a Colorado bearing down, but not only does he have a Colorado bearing down, he's now out of position where he can't really affect the battle. Now, I get a bit robbed. Double Citadel leaves him on 664 HP. He had a little bit of an angle. As you see, the angle is more... If you're in a light cruiser, you're actually better off being broadside to big, heavy ships, heavy caliber ships. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive to what we always teach you to do, never go broadside, but you're more likely to have them overpen than you are to have them do full penetrations or citadels like that. The little bit of angle there allowed me to get more ship and that's why I was able to do so much damage with the shells that I had. Zara here, Zara's bow on. He's in an unfortunate position for his ship, not only his ship but any ship, especially at this tier, and it's not going to end too well for him. Even if he smokes up, he was still spotted. I've got the shots out. We've got to be careful of the Nagato as we're heading towards this island, and that'll finish him off. Of course, Citadel, when he's only got like 71 health, always happens, doesn't it? The other thing about maintaining a position in the D6 square, which is pretty much all I've played in, is D6. I haven't really moved, and I haven't needed to move, is that when an enemy ship comes rolling into the cap as such, this Mahan, I'm in an area where I can disengage quite easily. Now the Mahan, you've got to be careful with Mahan. She has a torpedo launcher on each side, but she also has one central torpedo launcher, so if she fires off a salvo that looks like two sets, then yet you've got to be careful, because if she turns around she'll have another tube ready for you, and her torpedoes, I believe, are 7.2 kilometers, so just watch out for those. Watch out for that center firing tube, or not only the center firing tubes, but the far side tubes. So whatever's not her current combat side, she'll have a torpedo set ready on that other side of the ship. Still, 7.2 kilometers, you don't want to be too close. So I'm just going to open up the distance a little bit, because the last thing I want is to get torpedoed by the Mahan. And I keep firing on the biggest threat that I can see, which is Nagato. Remember, she can overmatch your ship. She has the same caliber guns. You have 26mm of armor all over. She will punch through that, except for that rear area, as I said earlier in the battle, where you have a 70mm armor scheme around the rear deck of those two stern guns, turrets. So, trying to finish off our enemy here in the Nagato. We've got our Shira coming back. He's communicated to us that he'll be on his way back to come and get our enemy. High caliber, always good to get these achievements in the battle. And as you can see, those torps, they just missed our Trento, but they were still in range for me to get hit. So I was still, even though I'd removed myself to the C6 square, I was still too close. So you've got to be careful with that. So Mahan pops up, and if you've got AP loaded for destroyers, just fire the AP, because you've got to think about, like, even if shells do overpens, so there's 3,000 damage. Most overpenetrations do about 1,000 damage on destroyers. So if you land 3 overpenetrations, you're going to get 3,000 damage, even with armor piercing. Now the armor piercing was nerfed a long time ago now, with in regards to battleship armor piercing hitting destroyers, but it's still, I believe it's still viable. Just keep firing it. High explosive does work, but when you've got a 30-second reload and you've got to switch between high explosive and armor piercing, just stay with your armor piercing. Okay, so Mahan goes down to the Trento, and the Trento never torp like this when you've got a teammate so close. I mean, our destroyer is rushing in. He's just told our team that he's going to rush in. And so I was just checking on these, and they went past King, luckily. But yeah, there could have been a team kill, and that team kill could lose you the battle. I know that we're up 7 ships to 1 and 980 points, but you never ever know what's going to happen. Like, if it was closer, if it was 2 ships versus 1, and you team killed 1, and you had low health and you needed that health to help you against the enemy ship, well, you've just ruined your chances. Anyway, 147,941 odd damage. Not a bad game. So how do we build this ship? Well, first of all, we're going to play our spotter plane as your consumable. We're going to go main numbers mod 1. We're going to go damage control system mod 1. Aiming systems mod 1 to try and get that really bad dispersion down. And I play damage control system mod 2, but propulsion mod 1 is also a viable module, especially when you're playing that forwards and back and dominating that position. So this 12-point captain on my ship, I have priority target expert marksman, superintendent, and I have concealment expert as my first 10. Now I've put a point into preventative maintenance just to make sure that my AA stayed alive, but I will refine this build later on. Expert loader is a pretty good one you can also run if you want to run that extra 1 point. Once the build is refined and we get to our Yamato, because that's the pinnacle of the line and where we want to get to, the 19-point captain will be absolutely superior up there. So it's not a bad ship. Not a flanker, definitely not a flanker. It's a mid-point control ship. If you're fighting over 2 caps, what you want to do is position yourself between 2 of the caps, so AB or BC, that sort of thing. And then you just dominate the control with your long range and heavy hitting guns. Anyway guys, thanks for joining me, and stay safe out there.